I found out my wife was cheating when I came home to our baby crying in a filthy diaper. Then our daughter told me she'd known the whole time, and that her mum told her the guy was actually her real dad. I'm 35M, and I met my now soon-to-be ex-wife, 33F, back in college about 12 years ago. She already had a child when she was 19, but the father disappeared as soon as she started university. We'd been dating for about 3 months before I met her daughter, Lisa. I still remember meeting her family for the first time. I was nervous to meet her parents, but when I saw a little girl standing beside her mother, I was completely thrown off. I asked if that was her younger sister or maybe a cousin, and her answer left me speechless. When she told me that was her daughter, I genuinely thought I'd misheard her. Initially, I considered ending things. Keeping something that major from me felt like a huge betrayal, but she begged me not to go, and eventually, I gave in. Soon enough. I found myself falling in love with Lisa, and I truly wanted to become a father figure to her. Our connection grew stronger as the years went on, and in early 2019, just before the pandemic, we got married. By late 2021, I had officially adopted Lisa, and in early 2022, my wife gave birth to our son, Mark. After Mark was born, my wife decided to stay home for a while, and I fully supported that. Everything seemed great, until a few months ago. Started noticing she was spending a lot more time with her friends. I didn't say anything initially. I figured being stuck at home all day was probably wearing on her, and I didn't want to come off as controlling. But the real red flags were her constant texting and always stepping out of the room to take calls. She'd never done that before, except with one friend of hers. When I asked about it, she gave me vague explanations about catching up on gossip. But last week, things escalated. I came home and saw her outside talking on the phone. That alone wasn't strange. What enraged me was finding our son inside the house, crying alone on the floor. I was furious she had left him unattended. But when I picked him up and smelled the horrible odor, I was beyond livid. His diaper hadn't been changed all day. I changed him quickly and stormed outside with him in my arms. I was fuming. I grabbed her phone straight out of her hand and ran back inside. I locked her out. I needed to speak to whoever she was talking to without her interfering. I had a feeling who it was, and sure enough, I heard a man's voice on the other end, calling her name and asking who was there. The second he heard my voice, he hung up. I locked the front door, sat down with her phone, and started screenshotting their messages, sending them to myself. Then I deleted the thread from her phone. About 5 minutes later, she was still pounding on the glass door that led to the backyard. I finally opened it, and she slapped me across the face. Keep in mind, I was still holding our toddler. As soon as she realized what she had done, her face crumbled. She started sobbing, apologized over and over, and tried to hug me. I pushed her away and told her to sit at the dining table. I asked Lisa to watch her little brother while I had a serious talk with her mother. I didn't make a big scene. I told her this was her one and only shot at having even a tiny chance of ever redeeming herself. If she lied or held back, we were done, right then and there. She kept repeating how sorry she was and tried downplaying it, insisting it wasn't that serious. I reminded her she hadn't just betrayed me, she'd also risked our son's safety by leaving him crying in a dirty diaper, completely unattended. Then I asked her, who, how long, and did they sleep together? She admitted it was her former boss, Daniel. It had been going on for 6 months, but she hesitated on the last part. I pressed her, told her again this was the final chance. She finally nodded. Then I asked if they'd use protection. That's when she broke down completely, sobbing, begging for forgiveness, swearing she'd block him right there, that she'd never talk to him again. She even said I could sleep with whoever I wanted now. The usual desperate attempts to undo the damage. And that's when Lisa, probably hearing all the yelling, came downstairs. I told her to go back upstairs, but instead, she walked straight to my wife and asked if I knew about Daniel. Up until that moment, I had held it together, but hearing her say that, it broke me. I swear, even I started to tear up. I turned to Lisa and asked if she had known the whole time. She said yes. At that point, the tears just started flowing. I asked her why she never told me. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Because unlike you, Daniel buys me whatever I want without making me beg." I was stunned. I asked her how she could say something like that to the man who raised her, and then came the dagger. "You're not my real dad," she snapped. My wife instantly shouted at her for saying that, but I was done. I couldn't take another second of it. I picked up my son and walked out the door. Right now, me and my boy are staying at my parents' house. I've been drinking myself to sleep every night. Thank God for my incredible mom. She's been caring for my son while I try to hold myself together. I'm absolutely broken. I've cancelled Lisa's private school tuition, cut off all her extracurriculars, and contacted a divorce attorney. Papers are being served to my wife this Friday. Since then, both my wife and Lisa have been blowing up my phone with texts and calls, pleading for forgiveness. I responded once, just once. I said, "Get a lawyer and tell that ungrateful thing you raised to start calling Daniel her dad now. I'm done with her." Then I blocked my wife. As for Lisa, I didn't even respond. Just hit block. Apparently my wife has told our friends what happened. Now they've started messaging me non-stop. They say they understand my pain, but that I'm going too far by divorcing my wife without giving her a chance to explain. And they say cutting Lisa off completely is too harsh, that she's just a kid and didn't really understand what she was doing. But I can't shake what she said to me. I've worked my tail off to give my wife and daughter a life I could only dream of when I was growing up. And this is how they repay me? Lisa's 13. That's old enough to know that covering up her mum's affair is wrong. And those words, those cruel words, she said them to hurt me on purpose. But a small part of me still wonders, is there a sliver of hope? Could a few sessions of family therapy bring us back to that fairy tale life I used to believe in? This whole thing has destroyed me. There's a side of me that wants nothing more than to see them suffer for what they did. But another part of me, one I hate to admit still exists, wonders if healing is even possible. Am I really going too far? Is there even a chance this can be saved? Am I the asshole for cutting off my daughter and leaving my wife? First off, I just want to say thank you. To everyone who's commented, messaged, or shown any kind of support, thank you. This past week has been the hardest period of my life. Watching the love you had for someone disappear overnight, it hit harder than anything I've ever experienced. To those who message me privately, I promise I'll reply. I've got over 100 unread messages right now, so bear with me. Here's what's happened since I last posted. First, I'm proud to say I've quit drinking. It wasn't easy, not even close. But seeing how my life was spiraling because of it, it shook me. Someone suggested I ask my mum to get rid of all the alcohol in the house. So I did. The first few days were brutal. The depression hit even harder. But I'm doing better now. Slowly, one step at a time. As for my wife, we've had a short conversation, and I've paused the divorce for now. There's still so much to sort through, and I realized maybe I jumped too fast in the heat of emotion. I'm not saying I'm going back to her. I'm just saying I need to take a step back and reevaluate everything. What she did was beyond reckless and heartbreaking. If there's ever going to be a future, she has a mountain of work to do to earn it. I've pulled half of the money from our joint account. I've stopped paying her car lease. When we talked, I asked her two things. Has she been in contact with Daniel since I found out? She said no. She claims she's cut him off completely and will do anything to fix our marriage. Then I asked her, why him? Why go to him in the first place? She said she didn't really know how it happened, just that they ran into each other at a reunion her old company hosted, and somehow everything fell into place. It began innocently enough, as friends catching up. But soon, those casual conversations turned into long nights and frequent meetups she hadn't expected, or tried hard enough to stop. At first, it was innocent. Lunches, texts, catching up. But soon he started visiting our home while I was out working, trying to provide for our family. I asked her directly if she had feelings for him back when they were colleagues. She admitted she always thought he was good-looking, but claimed nothing ever happened between them at work. It was only after reconnecting that things shifted. That's when I brought up Lisa. A lot of people messaged me after the last update, pointing out how my daughter's behavior suggested she'd been manipulated. So, I asked my wife why she let Daniel be around Lisa in the first place. She looked crushed and hesitated before telling me something that broke me all over again. One day, Lisa had come home early and caught them kissing on the couch. When she threatened to tell me, they bribed her with a new phone, trendy clothes, and anything else she wanted. At first, it was just to keep her quiet, but eventually, Lisa began warming up to him because of all the gifts and attention, and my wife allowed that to happen. I asked if she'd ever spoken badly about me to Lisa. At first, she didn't say anything, just stared at the floor with tears building up in her eyes. I pressed a little harder. Then she finally admitted the worst thing she could have possibly said. She told Lisa that Daniel might be her biological father. That destroyed me. I sat there, stunned. So many moments flashed in my head. Lisa pulling away, talking back, refusing to listen. Things I had blamed on puberty. But this was deeper. She didn't just keep an affair from me. She poisoned my daughter against me, and in doing so, shattered our bond. I want to take a moment to thank those of you who reached out and reminded me that Lisa is still a kid. When I first found out, I was overwhelmed, angry, and drunk. I blocked her. I told my wife to tell her to start calling Daniel Dad. I even said I was done with her. But after I sobered up, those words haunted me. That wasn't me. That was the broken version of me. So I unblocked her. Yesterday, I texted her. She responded quickly. She apologized, sincerely. She said her mom finally confessed everything, and since then, she hasn't spoken to her. She didn't say much else, but it was enough. I apologized too, for what I said, for blocking her, for making her feel like I was walking away. We agreed to meet tomorrow at the park and talk. It'll take time to rebuild what we lost, but she's my daughter. Maybe not by blood, but I raised her. I was there for her first dance recital, her science fair, her middle school graduation. I taught her how to ride a bike and how to tie her shoes. That doesn't just vanish overnight. To everyone who supported me during my darkest moments, thank you. I was drowning, and you pulled me back up. Your comments, messages, and advice were the reason I stopped drinking. The reason I chose to fight for clarity instead of drowning in pain. I'm still ashamed of the things I said when I was intoxicated, especially that rant in the comments, but I'm owning it now. As for my wife, I've told her that the divorce is on hold, not cancelled. I need time to think, to breathe, to heal. What she did was devastating, not just the cheating, but the emotional damage to our family. And while she says she's cut off contact with Daniel, I told her that isn't enough. She has a long way to go before I can even consider forgiveness, let alone reconciliation. I've taken control of our joint finances. I moved half the money into a separate account and stopped paying for her car lease. I told her I need space. If she truly wants to fix this, she needs to rebuild everything. Trust, respect, stability. Not just with me, but with Lisa too. That relationship might be even harder to fix. One more thing. I know many of you asked about my son. I haven't taken a DNA test yet. I get why people think I should, and I don't disagree. But right now, I'm not emotionally strong enough to handle that truth, whatever it may be. I look at him, and I see my little boy, my Mark. The thought of finding out he might not be mine biologically. I just can't face that yet. I will, someday, but not now. Not while everything else is still on fire. Thank you again, truly. This community has been my anchor through the most painful storm I've ever endured. I'll keep you posted on how the meeting with Lisa goes tomorrow. For now, I'm taking things one breath one decision, one conversation at a time. I tried to give her an out, telling her she was more than welcome to stay back if she didn't feel up to joining us. She let out this exaggerated sigh and said she'd rally and at least come out for the fireworks. She said it like she'd been through this exhausting, hyper-social day, when in reality, she had barely interacted with anyone at all. She did end up showing up for the fireworks but sat quietly at the bar for about half an hour before leaving early with bridesmaid 2. Once they left, the rest of us tried to salvage the night. The other girls noticed her energy, and they did their best to keep my spirits up. Later that night, I ended up crashing in the basement with one of my friends, even though she snores louder than a tractor. I'm a light sleeper, but I went along with it since bridesmaids 3 and 4 had decided they wanted to share a room. I didn't say anything because honestly, I'm just so used to putting everyone else first. Unsurprisingly, I couldn't sleep at all, so I grabbed my pillow and moved to the couch, but I still didn't get a minute of rest. I was too hurt, too frustrated, just laying there thinking about how the whole day had unfolded. The next morning, bridesmaids 1 and 2 didn't even come down to help clean the Airbnb before we checked out. They showed up with their bags right when we were scheduled to leave, everything already packed and wiped down. Then came the ride home. I had to drive bridesmaid 1 back, and it was easily the most uncomfortable hour and a half of my life. We exchanged maybe 5 sentences in total, and she spent the rest of the trip completely silent, arms crossed, staring out the window. She made zero effort to talk, and I was still holding in so much. I didn't try either. I was exhausted, sleep deprived, and struggling to stay alert. A conversation would have helped, but with her stonewalling me, I just turned up the music to keep from dozing off. The whole weekend felt tainted because of her. She completely sucked the joy out of my bachelorette party, a moment I had really looked forward to. This was the one time in our entire friendship when I expected to be her priority, and she let me down completely. I honestly don't think she even realizes how badly she behaved. In her mind, she probably thinks she did something great by simply showing up. But if she was going to be miserable the whole time, I would have preferred she stayed home. I've been reassured by the other bridesmaids that I'm not being a bridezilla. I don't think I was asking for much at all. And it wasn't just her. I barely got to hang out with bridesmaid 2 either, because she was too busy babysitting bridesmaid 1 and trying to keep her from unraveling. In my opinion, a bachelorette party is about the bride. It's a celebration where your closest friends are supposed to be excited for you, even if the activities aren't their thing. And it's not like I planned anything wild. There were no strippers, no crazy clubbing, nothing over the top. I chose a relaxing, low-key itinerary specifically so everyone would be comfortable. Bridesmaid 1 didn't do any of that. Instead, I spent the entire day stressing about her, worrying about how she was feeling, and adjusting to her mood. It's supposed to be a once-in-a-lifetime memory, and now I feel like she wrecked it. I know part of this is on me too for not saying anything sooner, but honestly, I didn't think I'd have to explain common decency and friendship etiquette to someone I've known for so long. What's really eating at me now is figuring out what to do next. She's extremely sensitive to criticism, and if I say even the smallest thing to her about this, she'll likely end the friendship and pull out of the wedding entirely. That would create a whole mess. She's already bought her bridesmaid dress, and all the dresses are coordinated with the groomsmen. It would throw off the whole balance. At the same time, I don't want someone dragging down the energy of my actual wedding, especially since it's a 3-day cultural celebration. I'm terrified she'll bring that same attitude and ruin even more memories. But if I hold off until after the wedding to say anything, I know there's a chance she'll still cut ties, and then I'll be stuck with her face in every wedding photo. Ideally, I'd love to talk things through with her beforehand, clear the air, and have her actually apologize and behave like a friend during the wedding. But realistically, I don't think that's going to happen. And that's why I'm so stuck. Do I confront her? If yes, when and how? Is it worth having her in the wedding at all if she's just going to act this way again? I'd really appreciate some outside perspective. Am I being too harsh? Should I try to have a conversation and hope for the best? Or is it better to cut my losses now before she casts another shadow over what's supposed to be one of the happiest moments of my life? Thanks for listening.